Hey guys, it's Sid with SVTPerformance.com, and as I promised, we're back at National Parts Depot in Ocala, Florida. We're continuing our little series of videos walking through the massive NPD car collection, and today we got something special for you. As you can see, we are in Mustang Alley, going through, and we're going to do a little bit of walkie-talkie about just what's going on with these various cars in the collection. I'm not an expert on the early stuff. I know a little bit here and there. I know this is a 65. Beautiful car. But what we're basically going to do is just walk through, and I'll highlight just a few things for you. And if there's any particular vehicle you guys would really like to know more about, hit it down in the comment section below. Let me know, and we'll put something together. This one, Shelby GT350. I think this is a 66, yeah. So I know a lot of you guys like these. But this is not really my forte. I'm not huge on the older Mustangs. I can appreciate them, beautiful cars. I especially like when you can just look and this is how it came from the factory, things like that. Just really like that. Air conditioning car, important in Florida. Another Shelby here, another 350. This one I know is a 500, 68 model, KR, highly desirable car. The 428 Cobra jet in it, and this one's an automatic. So surprisingly, a lot of KRs were automatics when Shelby sort of transitioned from the more race-oriented earlier cars to let's add a bunch of stuff and charge a bunch of money. See a lot of that going forward now. But this thing looks like it's pretty bare bones. It's an automatic too though. What's going on with this one? 67 coupe, 31,000 original miles with a 390. You can tell it's got the big block. It sits sort of low in the front. Another Mach 1. Got quite a few Mach 1s here. This one was 351. Another Mach 1 over here. And you just check out how beautifully cleaned up. And when I say cleaned up, a lot of these cars have not been, you know, heavily restored. As you can see in here, this is not like been done up to the nines. It's just a super clean example, and that's one of the things I really like about this collection. They don't just go through and completely restore everything. A lot of this stuff is ultra low mileage examples, like this pace car with the absolute best Fox body Mustang front end. I don't care, you can't argue with me, this is it. Doesn't get any better than these cars. And I love the retro look on the interior. We might have to dive a little deeper into this one. The gauges, everything. This is just about peak Fox body. 79 pace car, 100% original, unrestored, 56 original miles, not 56,000, 56. And this is one of, I think, three actual pace cars, not just a pace car edition. This was actually a pace car in Indy, so that's pretty cool. Coming back around, starting to get into the more modern stuff on this side. Some of the Fox bodies, and speaking of Fox bodies, this is Fox body number 1, the first Fox body Mustang made. And this is one of those things, this has not been a restored car. This was owned by one of the engineers at Ford who drove it for like 30,000 miles, and they've just cleaned it up. But I mean, you can look, a little bit of rust on some bracketry and things like that. The battery tray, they haven't restored it, they've just cleaned it, and it looks really cool. And this is one of my favorites because it's sort of that early era of adding just a bunch of stuff to meet emissions and everything. These are nightmares to work on, because just check out all of the vacuum lines on this. So this is a turbo 4-cylinder, and you can barely see the turbo just poking in through here, and it's carbureted. So you can imagine everything there is to go wrong in this just bundle of snakes of vacuum lines. It's ridiculous, but that's what you guys had to deal with back then. And this car is super weird and interesting. I mean, there's just so many things to point out. Like, when's the last time you saw a Fox body with a vinyl roof and a sunroof? And just standing near this car, it smells like crayons. It's kind of weird. I stuck my head in the interior earlier and it smells exactly like a box of crayons. But I like being able to go back and look at these just original cars to see this is how it came from the factory. 93 GT. This one's got the window sticker still in it. $23,000. Automatic, convertible. And you can see this one is a super low mileage example. This is probably like 100 miles or something. Let's see if it actually says on it. 50, I was close. 50 miles on this car. You can see all the wax bloom coming out on the cold air intake, and or not cold air intake, just the intake pipe. But if you ever wanted to know what it was like then, this is what it was like in 1993. You got your GT, all your various vacuum, like basically your vacuum manifold up here on the dash, firewall, and then get into the more modern Mustangs. This is actually the last Mach 1 built in this body style. Last one to come off the assembly line. Beautiful car. And of course it has all this went down the assembly line with it. And everybody who worked on this car signed this. That's really cool. I'm told that there's a bunch of tools in the trunk of this thing that we used on the assembly line. Like, so you can imagine this badge, or like say the Mach 1 badge in the back, that was unique to this car over here. So the tool that the Ford assembly line workers would use to make sure that that badge was on here just right, supposedly, as this was the last one getting built, they just threw the tools in the trunk. We're going to let it go with the car. Not going to need it anymore, so makes sense. Here's another official Indy pace car. And there's some great stories behind this thing. Cobra, right? SVT Cobra, beautiful. This one was built by Roush, another actual pace car. As you can see, full roll cage, fire suppression system. And if you look down there, this is an automatic. So how many automatic Cobras were built in the SN95 body style? Not a lot. We know of 3 because, again, they had like 3 of these cars, but this was another actual pace car that was used. Now we get into one of my favorites. I absolutely love the 95Rs. If I could have probably any of these cars on this row, it would be this one, because this car was just the last gasp of old school performance put into a modern wrapper. 351 V8 under the hood. The last Mustang with the big 350, or relatively big 351 small block. And this is a wrapper car, as you can see. Still has the plastic on the seats, plastic on the floors, and $35,500 sticker price. Who would not pay that for this car right now? I mean, just beautiful. Always loved this hood. I even like that there was a company that made a F-150 Lightning hood that mimicked that look. But they're just great looking cars, and such a throwback, especially when you compare it to the 93 Cobra R. Ford went way further with the 95s, you know, getting it a unique engine and a lot more uniqueness, whereas the 93 was sort of wheels and suspension and take everything out and let's call it an R. This is much more unique and just bare bones. So crank windows, base like V6 cloth seats, because they knew you're supposed to race this car. You're going to take that stuff out and put in race seats anyways. So I love that car. Speaking of 351s, got a Saleen 351 sitting right beside it. You can see, don't ask me how they managed to get emissions passed on this car back in the day, but Saleen somehow squeaked it through. Beautiful Recaros in this too, which are very similar to the 79 pace car seats. Going back to the R's, another one has a soft spot in my heart, 2000 Cobra R. This sort of took that car and turned it up to 11. They just really went with everything they could on this chassis, and besides the brute force of a Terminator This is basically peak Fox chassis. This is probably the most balanced of the Fox-based Mustangs. It makes great power, but has ridiculous handling and brakes for the time. Of course, you've got 5.4, 4-valve, which we wouldn't see again until the GT500s came out. But just look how crammed in here this thing is. People don't realize how wide a 5.4 4-valve is. It's bigger than a big block. And it's just crammed in here with the Hydro Boost. Just basically, you could get a stack of business cards between that and the valve cover, but that's just about it. Got some unique bracketry to make all this work. And then here's the other thing about owning one of these cars. All of this stuff, coolant hoses, things like that, is unique. Like, they only made 300 of these cars. There's not a ton of this parts to keep one of these things on the road anymore, out there floating around. Absolutely beautiful. And again, got the window sticker, 55 grand. This one did come with Recaros from the factory, which were very, very popular. And for the first time, 6-speed manual in this one. And you gotta love the side pipes. Going back in time a little bit to the 93 R. This is another one that's got some miles on it, but actually I may not have. No, this looks pretty low mileage too. It looks like it might have been driven a little bit. As you can see on the 93 R, you basically got the same 93 Cobra drivetrain. You know, not a lot of upgrades there. What was really special about this car is what it didn't have. And they just basically took away all the sound deadening, all of the creature comforts they could, and this was just bare bones performance. So you got super, super lightweight and everything. Actually, this car, 174 original miles on it. Wow. Super cool. Then we get the 300 millionth Ford vehicle made was this Mustang. And you're going to see this a lot over the next few videos. Is the guys at MPD had a, I don't know, it's one of the things they like is to get that whatever millionth Ford built. So this one's 300 millionth. I think there's a 50, 150, 100 millionth Ford. They're over there in the rest of the collection. And we've got tons of videos on this stuff on the channel. So if you want to really catch that, check out the link in the descriptions below. We'll have links to all these other channels in this, or all these other videos in this series are on the channel. So man, this collection, I get like caught up because it's just so amazing what they've got going on here. And honestly, I can't wait to just go back on the other side. Like, this goes beyond that wall, on the other side it just keeps going. So there's so much stuff to see. We're going to walk and talk through all that, but I think that's going to be it for this video. I don't want these to run too long. So if you want to catch all these, definitely subscribe. We're going to be releasing them over the next few weeks. Several more installments. So some before this, some after this, but there's a lot more coming. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and please subscribe to the channel. Click the like button so this goes, you know, into the algorithm, and you know, all that YouTube stuff all the other YouTube people say. And as always, head over to SVTPerformance.com. I got a link in the description to a thread with this video in it, and a lot of pictures and stuff from around here. So if you want more detailed views, do that. And if you want us to like pick some of these cars out, head over to SVTPerformance.com, the link in the description. Post over there and tell me which ones you'd like to see, because I'll actually for sure see that. I may not get it if it's in the comment section, but you can try the comment section too. But if you really want my attention, want me to answer some questions on this stuff, I can dig in, get that for you. Post over on SVT Performance. Like I said, links in the description below. And as always, SVTPerformance.com is your source for the latest news, reviews, and information on your favorite Ford-powered vehicles. And please support National Parts Depot. If you've got any parts you need for your classic Fords, hit them up. MPDlink.com. They've been great to host us here. I couldn't ask for more. So like I said, NPDlink.com, all your classic Ford parts needs, and GM stuff too. You'll see some of that in these other videos, but links in the description, SVTPerformance.com. Thanks guys for checking it out.